Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. I, as always, am Sandy Shellis. Nothing has changed. And Jennifer, she had a hi, everybody. It's
Oh,
great.
yes.
Hi. Hi, Jen.
Hi.
It's great to be
Hey.
here every Friday with my Jennifer. I love it. Tonight is a bit of a well, we have an intermission video that I made. It's a little dark, a little weird. You know how I get. And Jennifer's going to give us the 30,000 mile overview of everything we're doing tonight. And I'm just going
Yeah.
to say hi, Kim. Thank you for moderating, and Beelan Global and Wolf Heinel and Bob LeBlanc and Channel Warhorse. You're all here. You're all here. It's great. Void, you're here, sweetheart. Scott. And great, 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 great. We're going to have a good show. David McCraig. Good show tonight. Let's get going.
Absolutely. Let's not waste any time. We've got a little bit of everything tonight. So we're going to start off with CBS News. The world is about to experience its hottest year yet and may likely surpass 1.5 degrees C of warming. UN warns there's no return.
Oh
That's
boy.
very stark. That's in
Yeah,
CBS
for
News.
mainstream media that only,
Mainstream
yeah, they had
media.
a video on YouTube that maybe I think 2,000 people saw.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Nobody
Oh,
cares. Nobody cares. No.
well.
Oh well.
No one cares. We
No one
care.
cares. We care. We care.
Okay. Then we're going to run over to EOS.org. Heat waves, a growing threat to society and the environment. So we're going to take a look about where we're going to go in our future. Then we're going to run over and see what Zach Labe is up to on Twitter
Yep.
and see his latest and greatest. And then I believe we have an intermission, do we not?
Yes, that's why we're going to play the intermission video. Stick around for that. It's you'll be entertained. Mhm.
Indeed,
Yes,
indeed.
you'll be entertained.
And then ecori.org, secretly funded climate obstruction keeps the
Mm.
fossil fuel fires burning.
Oh
Ooh,
yeah, this is the one. This is the
ooh.
one.
And this is
Elliot.
by
Oh
a Frank Tale.
yeah, yeah. But Elliot had this on his Twitter, and I was like, "This is
Um,
us. Yes, we have to do this."
it's
Yep,
a good one.
yep,
It's
yep,
definitely
yep.
a good one.
Absolutely.
Then we're going to run over to Counterpunch. Why is AOC parroting nuclear industry propaganda?
Yeah. What the
And
fuck?
then we're going to go over to Nature. Degrowth can work. Here's how science can help.
Okay.
And finishing up with Common Dreams, our climate, grieve, cry, but don't give up. And that, guys, is where we are
That's where
going
we're at.
today.
That's where we're at, and I'm finished sharing, so I'm gonna put the phone down and stop sharing on Facebook, which two people watch anymore because they come over here. All right, guys. So, are we ready? Are we ready? We are ready. We are ready to move over to our um, reading overlay, and here we are. So, UN world is about to experience its hottest year yet and may likely surpass 1.5 C of warming. UN returns, and this is CBS News. And it starts out with talking about the deadly heat waves that have gripped nations in recent years are likely to get worse. On Wednesday, the World Meteorological Organization announced that data and models show the planet is on track to have its hottest year ever for at least one of the next 5 years, and that planet will likely surpass the climate change threshold. Now, this is CBS News. So
Mm.
I don't know if people are paying attention or what they're doing. You feel like they're not, but the last global heat record was reached in 2016 during that El Nino. And oh God, Jennifer, I am not looking forward to El Nino I'm worried about everything here, but you have to just do the best you can, right?
Mhm.
Uh-huh. So it's coming back, and they said 66% chance that annual global surface temperature will exceed, or temporarily they say, 1.5 above pre-industrial levels for at least one of next 5 years. 98% likelihood that at least one of the 5 years will be the warmest on record. And I'm not going to go through this whole thing too much because I used some of this in my video. Um, at the threshold, most areas on land will experience hotter days, with roughly 14% of the planet's population exposed to severe heat waves. That's a lot of people, at least once
Mhm.
every 5 years, according to NASA. The UN had also warned that at this moment of global warming, precipitation and droughts will both be more frequent and intense, and that there will be far greater risks to energy and food and water. Oh my gosh. Indonesia, the Amazon, and Central America will likely see less rainfall already this year. So, Adam Scaife, who worked on the climate update for the UK Met Office, told Reuters that this marks the first time in history that it's more likely than not we will exceed 1.5. It it turns my stomach. It just turns my stomach. One of the most dramatic changes from this is expected to be seen in the Arctic, Tellez said, a region that has already seen more than double the warming the rest of the planet has experienced. In the coming years, the estimation is that Arctic temperatures will be 3 times global average, he said. That's going to have big impacts on the ecosystems there. So, what you see is this was the World Meteorological Organization, and they're showing. I don't know if I can make this bigger. I don't think I can. The global average temperatures will be between 1.1 and 1.8 degrees Celsius higher than pre-industrial times, likely surpassing a climate change threshold. And we will see. Let's keep that word, the pre-industrial times in your mind. For my video, you'll see what I'm talking about. This is demonstrating that climate change is proceeding, and once we extract this impact of natural variability caused by El Nino, it's demonstrating that we are again moving in the wrong direction, he said. So basically, regardless of what comes within the next few years, there's no return to the climate that's persisted in the last century, and that is a fact. That is a fact. Scary shit on
Mm.
CBS News. But,
Mm-mm.
people don't believe the media in the United States. We have a bunch of clueless morons in the United States. Ugh.
Mm.
So Jen, you want to move on to the next one? We're moving on tonight. We're trying to pack it all in, guys.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Let's go ahead and get
All right.
started. Heat waves. Heat waves, guys. You see a theme here. A growing threat to society and the
Oops.
environment. With heat waves expected to worsen in the 21st century, it is essential to take stock of our current understanding, knowledge gaps, and set research priorities.
Mhm.
Ooh, look at this
Mhm.
beautiful map. That was actual land surface temperature July 2019 when there was a heat
Yeah.
wave hitting Europe, I guess.
Wow.
So that was like 4 years ago.
Yep.
Okay. Heat waves are extreme climate events that have become a major societal concern since they are expected to increase in frequency, intensity, and duration throughout the 21st century. A recent study in Reviews of Geophysics explores the current understanding of heat waves and the main scientific challenges. Here, we ask the authors to give an overview of heat waves, their relationship with other hazards and climate, and what questions remain.
Mm.
Question: in simple terms, what are heat waves and what kinds of criteria are used to define them? Heat waves are periods with temperatures significantly higher than the usual values recorded in a given place. This can happen at any time of the year, but regions with marked seasonality, the term is usually applied to those occurring in summer. There is no universal definition of heat wave, but minimum intensity, and that is temperatures above certain threshold, and duration, usually 3 consecutive days or more, are common criteria. Depending on the purpose, additional conditions or variables can be considered to assess their characteristics and associated impacts. What are the main drivers of heat waves? Heat waves result from interaction among drivers of different nature acting at a different spatio-temporal scales. In recent years, global warming has been a key driver, making heat waves more frequent and more intense in most areas of the world. Natural climate variations like El Nino Southern Oscillation, ENSO, also affect heat waves on interannual to multi-decadal scales. Atmospheric planetary waves and high pressure weather systems are common immediate drivers in extratropics. Other proximate factors, such as vegetation and the moisture content of the soil, can instigate and exacerbate heat waves through complex feedbacks with the atmosphere. The drivers and their relative importance can vary regionally from event to event.
Look at this one. Mm.
Yeah, very interesting. How do heat waves exacerbate other natural hazards? Heat waves can concur by chance with other hazards such as droughts, dust storms, pollution events, or wildfires. However, more often, their combined occurrence responds to either shared atmospheric drivers or land atmospheric feedbacks that cause these hazards to exacerbate each other. For example, heat waves contribute to soil desiccation and intensify drought severity, which in turn is a commonplace precursor of heat waves. Their joint occurrence is a typical example of a compound event with disproportionate impacts on societies and ecosystems. Heat waves are also frequently associated with air stagnation, which impedes the dispersion and diffusion of pollutants in the lower atmosphere, leading to significant deterioration of air quality.
Mm.
Extreme heat combined with low humidity and high winds represents atmospheric stressors of forest fires, which pose major threats in dry vegetated areas such as the Mediterranean savannas in Europe, Australia, and America. Question: why is it useful to study heat waves at different spatial and time scales? Heat wave assessments at different scales have their own issues and challenges, but all of them bring complementary cross understanding and multiple benefits to heat wave prediction, future projections, and the deployment of efficient early warning systems and adaptation strategies. For example, in urban areas where high temperatures are magnified by urban heat island effect, studies must consider local factors such as city design, green and blue spaces, and population in order to mitigate heat wave impacts on health, labor, productivity, electricity demands, or infrastructures. On larger spatio-temporal scales, the understanding of heat waves benefits the accuracy of predictions beyond weather horizons, which are needed to anticipate mega heat waves with devastating impacts on natural ecosystems, the carbon cycle, and some socioeconomic factors. Finally, global climate assessments allow researchers to establish robust linkages with global warming, improve future projections, explore thresholds in adaptive capabilities, and guide the development of shared mitigation strategies. Question: how are heat waves projected to change in the future? Climate models allow researchers to assess future changes in heat waves at global and regional scales. Unabated global warming will result in longer, more intense, extensive, and frequent heat waves over most land regions, even for an additional zero point 0.5 C of warming. They would aggravate the observed changes with unprecedented events that would shatter the records set by recent record breaking episodes. Irrespective of the scenario of greenhouse gas emissions, the magnitude of warm extremes tend to increase linearly with global warming, albeit with substantial variations across regions and heat wave characteristics. The projected increases often vary with rarity of the event. For example, the global land area is a hot day that occurs once every 20 years, and the present day climate would be about 2.5 times more likely in a 2C warming world. Although the direction of future changes is unquestionable, their magnitude is still uncertain at regional scales, partially due to missing forcings or misrepresented processes in climate models. This uncertainty means that for some regions, future change could be larger than currently projected, which further stresses the urgent need of reducing greenhouse gas emissions to cope with the unavoidable aggravation of heat waves.
Oh, that's pretty cool there. Look at the, I don't think I can make it bigger, but
It's pretty cool, yeah.
yeah, top years, and then it shows the different years of different kinds of heat. It's the heat wave map from 50 to 2021. Look at that, Jennifer.
Woo! That is amazing. Wow. 70 years of heat
Yeah.
waves there.
And it has said the gray shading regions are missing data, so I guess they'll have to find it.
Mm. Is your data missing?
Yeah. Where did it go? Did it run away? It ran away from home. It was unhappy.
Question: how can current scientific knowledge about heat waves be used to inform local or regional policy for managing this risk? The past few years have witnessed substantial progress in process understanding, observation capabilities, and statistical and physical model development. This has contributed to more accurate weather predictions and improved capabilities to anticipate heat waves on subseasonal scales, which is beyond 2 weeks. After 2003 heat wave, many European countries launched successful heat health warning systems to mitigate heat-related effects in population. Subseasonal predictions have the potential to provide actionable anticipatory information for the deployment of early warning systems in many socioeconomic sectors related to agriculture, farming, energy, and water. At longer timescales, current knowledge on future changes in heat waves is useful to guide decision making in mitigation and adaptation strategies. That means design of greener cities to reduce the urban heat island effect. Question: what are some of the unresolved questions where additional research, data, or modeling are needed? Our understanding of heat waves has improved dramatically in recent years. However, difficulties related to heat wave definition, simulation, attribution to climate change, or future projections remain. Overall, the drivers contributing to heat waves are not yet well understood, and it is unclear how the underlying processes may be altered in the future. Accordingly, it is legitimate to ask whether the reasonable representation of heat waves in the current models occur for the right reasons, and how this fragmentary understanding affects future projections. Important questions concern uncertain dynamical aspects of heat waves, such as future changes in atmospheric circulation and the role of vegetation dynamics, as well as other regional forcings. However, major challenges involve fundamental questions demanding interdisciplinary research. They include process based understanding, which requires coordinated efforts towards theoretical, observational, and modeling developments, and impact based risk frameworks integrating this knowledge with non climate stressors to deliver actionable information tailored to specific sectors. And that was written by David Barry Pedro out of Spain, I believe, Madrid, Spain. So there you go. Oh, I can't hear you.
What we are going to do now is share Zach Labe, and Jennifer's going to look and tell me what she would like me to go to.
Oh.
We have his latest, let me just pull it up for me. We've got his latest, 39 minutes ago. He added this figure permanently to his climate companion uh, page.
Oh.
So this is something new. I don't know if you want me to open it up or if should we just go down to the Antarctic?
Um, yeah, let's see what this is. This is a climate model projections compared to observations in the Arctic. So, what this really means, this gray and red one, is that the trend is going up, and you can see that there is a projection out into the future. So, the end of the red line is you are here now, and the white line is where you could be.
Wow.
There you go.
Oh, he does good stuff.
Yes, he
He
does.
does. So he's got this whole thing, and you guys can see this too. You know, you could go onto his Twitter or ask us, and we can share some of these with you. He does marvelous work. And this was the near surface temperature anomaly 81 to 2010 baseline. And you see, everything goes up. I mean, it's just
Mhm.
everything goes up.
Mhm.
There's really nothing that you can say about all of this. And so this is his website. This is his actual
Mhm.
website, not his Twitter. So we'll go back to Twitter, but his website's pretty damn cool. So we could look at what the Antarctic anomalies.
Well,
Now
that's
this is
very
interesting.
interesting. The Antarctic sea ice anomalies. Look, we are here now. It's always so nice. Zach Labe makes things very clear.
Hmm.
And it's so evident. This is current. Here we are, mid May, almost into June, right here, right now. That means the Antarctic sea ice is very low. In fact, it's lower than it has ever been in any year that it has been measured.
The extent. Hmm. Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow. And
indeed.
then he's got the Arctic sea ice, and he had. Well, first he was showing the measurements and the different about the 260 above the 2010s. So that's interesting. Oh, it moves.
Yeah.
Did I move it? This is the extent of the Arctic sea ice, which we used to talk about a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I mean, I guess what's most telling about this Arctic sea ice graph is that every decade that it's measured, so you get the 1980s mean, and
Hmm.
that's white, the 1990s mean, that's that aqua color, the 2000s mean, that's the blue one, and the purple one is the 2010s mean. So don't pay too much attention to the yellow line. That's just kind of tracking where we are right now. I think what's more important here is the trend and where it's going. And you can see that every decade it's lower.
Mm-mm-mm. All right, let's see what he's got next. Oh, the CO2. He's got, what did he say? Another comparison showing the latest monthly observations of carbon dioxide and methane.
Hmm. So what really kind of strikes us, I mean, we can all see it's going up, but look at this methane graph here on the right hand side and see how steep that declination is. See how steep it's going up every year, much more so. So methane has definite liftoff, and you can see it's forming a pretty steep curve.
Wow.
Yeah.
I need to get a liftoff sound effect. Liftoff. All right, well, that's what we've got for Zach.
Hmm.
All right, so that was fun to look at what's going on in Zach's world. He does such good work. We really like him. But we are going to move on, and we are going to move on to this article. And this article I got on Twitter, and this was posted on Elliot Jacobson's, and he was freaking out about this. And this is kind of also my kind of thing. And it's Eco Renews. It's Rhode Island, and Senator Whitehouse is from Rhode Island. Our climate change senator who understands everything and does climate change, um, presentations for the rest of the senators that don't show up. But I'm going to read this, and we're going to talk about one page shill in
Hmm.
particular after this.
Mm.
Page shills for the fossil fuel industry. Oh, and you know what? I forgot to show the intermission, but I'll do this first. Paid shills for the fossil fuel industry are so proud of their affiliation, they hide it. They are paid to lie and misrepresent facts, all in the name of protecting the filthy rich. They routinely claim without evidence that climate initiatives will hurt the economy, increase costs for ratepayers, and slow job creation. They argue that climate mitigation is a hidden tax, some violation of the free market or unconstitutional overreach. They argue climate change has been happening for millions of years, but fail to note that the relentless burning of fossil fuels has dramatically fast forwarded the impacts from hundreds of thousands of years to a few centuries. Many devastating climate changes are already baked in and coming due. And if we don't drastically reduce the greenhouse gas emissions immediately, present Gen Z and Gen Alpha and future generations will pay an enormous price. The shills, they don't give a shit. They don't care about food and water shortages and loss of biodiversity or asthma rates. They're paid to prevent any reduction in carbon burning. Here in Rhode Island, climate change skepticism is spread by the Rhode Island Center for Freedom and Prosperity. Doesn't it sound like one of those,
Oh, it
right
does.
wing think tanky bullshit? The efforts, and they get a lot of their money funded in by Kochs. The efforts
Mm.
of the Cranston based nonprofit by Mike Stenhouse are supported, at least in part, with money from special interests. But finding information on its website about how the organization is funded, it's a secret because progressives are against free speech and freedom. Or some such nonsense. On a webpage titled Private Donations and Enemies of Debate. Oh my God. Stenhouse explains why his organization does not report the identity of its donors. From shutting down free speech at events to forcing nonprofits to publicly report the names and addresses of their donors in the hope of discouraging future contributions, there's a concerted national effort by the left to shut down open and robust public debate. Debate the science. He writes, for these reasons, the official policy of our center is to exercise our constitutional right to keep the identity of our donors private and to protect them from potential recrimination by those who choose not to engage in honest and open debate. Eco Rhode Island News is also a 501c3 nonprofit. Our four most recent financial statements, which are the 990s, are posted on our website. Our annual 990s list any foundation or individual who has donated $5,000 or more. In 14 years, debate has not ceased and no one's freedom lost by making this information available to the public. And I thought all 501c3s had to show their donors. I was one. I ran ours for Concerned Citizens for Allegheny County. I was the treasurer. So I'm just going to go on. Transparency is honesty. Full disclosure. We've had a reader cash in their fossil fuel stock and donate it to us. And Chevron annually matches the donation of a former employee. The goal of Fossil Fuel Disinformation Network, of which the Center for Freedom and Prosperity is most certainly a member, is to discredit science and attack knowledge, to undermine government intervention, and muddy the warming waters when it comes to the climate crisis. Members cloak their fossil fuel fandom by claiming they are protecting families, jobs, and the economy from a boogeyman. They try to manufacture this bump in the night to be more frightening than prolonged drought, dried up rivers and reservoirs, wildfires, excessive heat, melting Arctic and Antarctic ice, sea level rise, flooding, superstorms, and pollution. And here's the dark money which Sheldon Whitehouse always talks about. Timon Roberts, a professor of sociology and environmental studies at Brown University, co-founded the Climate Development Lab in 2013 to shine a light on the organizations and individuals behind the climate denial movement. By following the money, lab researchers, most notably Robert Brule, have since found many dark corners. Their research has helped them make known the vast sums spent on public relation firms and fossil fuel front groups by ExxonMobil, Shell, other energy corporations, and the infamous Koch brothers to obscure what the industry has known for decades. Carbon emissions are destructive. We wanted to find out what the forces that are driving inaction, not just inaction, but corrosive counteractions, really rabid anti-climate action in the United States, Roberts said. You know how they are getting what they want at the local level, at the state level, at the national level, and at the global level. A 2019 study published in the science journal Nature noted that the climate change counter movement employs a multifaceted strategy to develop and spread ideological viewpoints and policies that are favorable to industry interests, creating the appearance of scientific uncertainty about issues for which the solutions may threaten those interests is therefore critical to this intellectual infrastructure, the authors, including Brule, write. They noted the spread of scientific misinformation at a scale and level of complexity never before witnessed, and it has altered the nature of public debate, sowed seeds of cultural and political polarization, and made meaningful legislative action nearly impossible. They have blood on their hands, Jennifer.
Don't they, though?
Yes, they do. The Families for Freedom of the Center for Freedom of Prosperity likes to portray itself as the only thing keeping Rhode Island families from being torn asunder and businesses from fleeing the state. The organization's mission is to drive social change in the form of pro-family, pro-business reform policies, advanced via coalition and public outreach, to keep families home and together in our state, to empower Rhode Islanders to lift their quality of life via increased economic and educational opportunities, and to expose the progressive special interest agenda as one that creates undue hardship for families and businesses and drives them out of state. To protect them from undue hardship, the organization rails against universal health care, abortion, pay equity, fair housing mandates, minimum wage increases, restrictions on the Second Amendment, and efforts to slow down the phase out of the car tax. Oh my God, they are really disgusting. To reduce energy costs for Rhode Island families and businesses, the center has said unrealistic and ineffective green energy mandates should be repealed. Don't blame National Grid. Your high electricity rates are mandated by progressive left green energy policies. It is claimed Rhode Island has a relatively low carbon footprint because 98% of its energy generation is based on natural gas production. Echoing a talking point, the American Petroleum Institute, a powerful lobbying group for the oil and gas industry, has been pushing. In January 2020, the American Petroleum Institute launched its Energy for Progress campaign. The initiative has described natural gas as clean or environmentally friendly energy source. It also has said that increasing global exports of U.S. natural gas offers a solution to help lower the world's carbon footprint. Climate scientists say the rising of production of natural gas, which consists primarily of methane, a potent greenhouse gas, is emerging as one of the biggest drivers of climate change, and that plans for industry expansion could hobble the efforts to stabilize the climate. Methane in the atmosphere had its fourth highest annual increase in 2022, according to the NOAA. Part of the overall rise in planet warming greenhouse gases, the federal agency has called alarming. Hydraulic fracking, which releases large amounts of methane and other greenhouse gases, involves blasting immense volumes of water mixed with toxic chemicals and sand deep into the earth to fracture rock formations and release the oil and gas. The practice also poisons drinking water, and about 25% of these chemicals can be linked to cancer. Some 2 million U.S. wells have been completed using the fracking process, producing more than 7 billion barrels of oil and about 600 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, plus polluted drinking water resources, public health impacts, and climate changing emissions. And Jennifer, I'll tell you, it's a fight here just to keep the fracking waste from coming into our landfills. And I've talked about that before.
Mm-hmm.
We already won against having fracking waste from Pennsylvania put on our roadways in the wintertime. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what they were doing. And all that shit runs into the farmland. So they are a coalition of liars. The Center for Freedom and Prosperity preaches misinformation, claiming increased natural gas pipeline capacity would bring rates down, and calling a carbon tax a job-killing, economy-busting proposal. In 2016, the organization joined the Free Market Environmental Law Clinic and the Energy Environmental Legal Institute in a lawsuit demanding the Rhode Island Office of the Attorney General release documents related to United for Clean Power, a group they claim was comprised of politically motivated attorney generals from about a dozen states, including Rhode Island, who have secretly teamed up with anti-fuel activists to investigate dozens of organizations that have exercised their free speech by challenging the global warming policy agenda. It shouldn't even be political. The coalition of 25 states, cities, and counties, then led by Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, came together to explore the possibility of working together on climate-related initiatives, such as ongoing and potential investigations into whether fossil fuel companies misled investors and the public on impacts of climate change. A year earlier, the state of New York, my state, reached a settlement with Peabody Energy Corporation, the world's largest publicly traded coal company, concerning the company's misleading financial statements and disclosures. Earlier this year, Peabody Energy was sued in a Delaware court of Chancery for making allegedly misleading statements about an Australian coal mine fire. The center, their lawsuit partner, the Free Market Environmental Law Clinic, formerly known as George Mason Environmental Law Clinic, gained its notoriety by challenging a host of Obama-era environmental regulations. George Mason University, by the way, has received more in funding from the Koch brothers, notorious climate change deniers whose family has amassed enormous wealth while extracting fossil fuels, than any other academic institution. And George Mason, that's in DC. That's supposed to be like this good school. Fuck that. Nearly 80 million since 1986, according to DeSmog Blog, which is a wonderful publication. The Law Clinic has repeatedly sent Freedom of Information Act requests targeting climate scientists such as Michael Mann and James Hansen. It has also filed lawsuits fighting against Colorado's renewable energy standard and the Environmental Protection Agency's efforts to impose water quality standards in Virginia. Imagine that, being against water quality standards. These people are fucked.
Yeah.
They are. They're just fucked. As for the lawsuit's third party, the Energy and Environment Legal Institute, formerly the American Tradition Institute, The Guardian has reported the organization has a core mission of discrediting climate science and dismantling environmental regulations by filing nuisance suits to disrupt important academic research. That's the anti-science agenda. It described the organization as a free market think tank that wants the public to believe human-caused global warming is a scientific fraud. In an opinion piece originally published by the Providence Journal in early December of last year, Stenhouse blamed everyone but fossil fuel corporations for rising cost of energy, even though the industry pocketed $2 billion a day in profit, according to for 50 years. According to a 222 analysis. Beyond the hyperinflation and the geopolitical turmoil in Ukraine, President Biden is pointing the finger at major oil companies' greed for excessive profits. Stenhouse wrote, his misinformed statements reveal that the president's lack of understanding of the underlying root causes. In reality, overzealous green energy policies have left artificially forced big oil and big electricity firms to hike the cost of energy on Rhode Island's families and businesses. It is now painfully clear that such activist government policies must be repealed or reformed, not the oil companies themselves. So, lack of transparency. The center has a webpage titled Transparency is Indispensable to Democracy, and notes that as part of our open government effort, we feel it is important that complete transparency be available so that a fully informed citizenry can fully participate in crucial debates about future well-being of our citizens and conduct of our state and local governments, but it doesn't hold itself to the same standard. It leaves it to others to tell you who funds its fossil fuel agenda. SourceWatch outlines the organization's strong ties to Koch-funded entities such as Virginia-based State Policy Network. And it's a group of free market think tanks that support the work of many of the most vocal organizations when it comes to promoting climate change skepticism, including the Cato Institute, the Heartland Institute, which is particularly gets under my skin, and the Heritage Foundation, and the American Legislative Council, ALEC. These evil, evil people, which has noted global climate change is inevitable. Climate change is a historical phenomenon, and the debate will continue on the significance of natural and anthropogenic contributions. Among some of the corporations ALEC has worked with include Exxon, Koch, and Peabody. On its website, they note that it's a proud member of the State Policy Network, a national group of state-based think tanks fighting to help make government work for all Rhode Islanders, not just a special interest few.